Y'all, as we trying, we don't do stuff professionally. We do what we can when we do what we do. That's Leroy and Owen and
Yep.
Michael. You know what we are. Snotty by nerds of nature, of Roy, of London's, of People's Productions. I don't know
So
what
have
Leroy
you
got
been
us called.
drinking?
Maybe, possibly. I don't
Hold
know.
on. Did you say Lloyd's of London?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
You plan to get up for the coronation?
I may. You know what? I don't really care about royal stuff. Um,
You know I don't.
yeah, Wendy loves royal stuff.
Really?
Yeah, she does. She loves that stuff.
Wow.
She watched the weddings. I think she probably watched the Queen's funeral.
So she's
I,
the
I,
traitor. Okay, I got it.
well, it's
Okay.
not even. I will
Yeah.
say this: as much as I don't care, I do enjoy the musical aspect of it in terms
Mhm,
of like hearing some of those old like choral hymns and choirs and
mhm.
stuff in those large cathedrals. That's really nice. But other than that, I don't care.
Sir, I'm an American. We celebrate the fourth in this country, and we
Uh,
celebrate the fourth in my house, and I don't give a goddamn about the royal family. We fought a war not to care about that. I am a proud colonialist. What were we called? We were called traitors.
colonizer.
No, we were called traitors to the crown, and I wear
Okay.
that badge proudly.
All of our UK listeners, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to get those numbers up over there. We really need your support. Go Union Jack, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But
They knew what they was when they clicked on this link.
yeah. But having said all that, I would probably watch it if
Mhm.
I didn't have to do the volunteer event in Fort Mill for the Strawberry
Okay.
Festival. But
Okay.
yeah, because that day is also the same day as the Kentucky Derby, and I don't know
Yeah, it
if we
is.
talked about it on our old podcast, but I love to watch all the big like the big three of Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and
Is
Belmont.
that one of your destinations you want to go to? Like going to a derby or like
Maybe. I mean, I guess I could start with what do we have? The Carolina Cup.
mhm.
Yeah, I should maybe check that out one day.
You've never been?
No.
It's interesting. It's
Okay.
not bad.
Yeah.
Hey.
But yeah, we're not talking about UK. We're not talking about horse racing. We are talking about our tape press play this week. We are talking about the writer strike and Xbox is fucking up.
Microsoft is in the red.
Um,
So
well, I
let's
don't
start.
know. I don't know if they're in the red.
No, I mean I'm being hyperbolic.
Oh, okay.
I'm being sarcastic because
I mean, they facing some danger, but who knows?
buddy, what's going on? Why are we throwing these things? Come on, man. Which one you want? You want this one? Or you want that one?
Mm.
You want to hold this one? How about put that one in your mouth? You hold this one. Deal? Okay. So the writer's strike.
Mhm.
This is the third. So as we're taping this, this is the fourth day of the strike. We've seen some. We've so the strike happened the day after the Met Gala.
It was the day after.
It was the day after because the Met Gala was Tuesday.
Didn't it also happen on Tuesday?
Let me check because I want to say I thought the strike happened the day after. Hold on, was the gala Monday then?
Maybe it was Monday.
That might have been because I remember all of the celebrities on the red carpet talking about the fact of solidarity with
Hmm.
the writers.
Fair enough.
And so hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. So it might have been so the Met Gala was 3 days ago. So the writer's strike happened. Hold on. Buddy, what are you doing? Uh, okay, I need that back. Need that back. Let me have that back. Ah, give it back.
The writer's strike started May 2nd, 1201,
May 2nd. Okay.
and
All
the
right.
gala was also May 2nd.
So the writer's strike happened that day. Okay, cool. This is what happens when I look at our reporting. Um,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
bam, shots, shots fired. So break down the writer's strike for some people who don't know, or start with the. I mean, you've written a script for it, so I figured you could give the bullet points.
I haven't written a script for the writer's strike.
You hadn't. I thought you had it in your shows.
I put a package on it.
Oh,
that copied an intro from somewhere else. I
Okay.
mean, and as somebody who is an outsider looking in, essentially most writers that
Mhm.
write for scripted television, for movies or scripted content, TV stuff like that, are a part of
Mhm.
a guild. I think there are
Yep.
two big guilds: the Writers Guild of
And the screen.
America West and
Yep.
East.
Mhm.
Um, those presidents met with the let's see, what is it called? The AMT. I'm trying to figure out what it's called.
Hey, you got to pick one. You want to
The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that represent the studios, like your Disney's and your Paramounts,
Yep.
Sony's, all that
Warner
stuff.
Brothers.
Yeah, Warner Brothers, all that stuff.
Lionsgate. Yep.
Those two sides met. They've been meeting for the past couple of months now, I think, at this point, because their current contract was supposed to end, I guess, at 11:59 May 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And if a deal
Correct.
wasn't reached, they would go on strike the next minute. And that's what happened.
Yep.
Essentially, writers are demanding, they're asking for more stuff that they should rightly get.
From what I understand, a 2% raise.
You got all the bullet points, or just that?
So there, I'm looking right here. I'm trying to pull it up. Here it is. This is from People magazine. Why are Hollywood writers protesting? The existing contract was created well before the explosion of streaming media and all of the upheaval that it caused in terms of the volume of output as well as the way content is hosted and viewed today. And the Guild says does not adequately address how they should be compensated for work within this new medium. Writers have been seeking a major overhaul in compensation for streaming residuals, as well as higher pay overall, greater protections, and a solution to the increase of mini rooms in which a small group of writers pen multiple scripts for a show's potential first season prior to production beginning. Basically, all of their requests were rejectedly demanded. There was never any negotiations, from what I understand. It was just like, you better re-sign this deal or nothing. And the writers were like, nah, homie, like we're supposed to be negotiating, yada, yada, yada. Now, so do you understand what the mini rooms is about?
Yeah. You
Okay.
just explained it.
Well, it goes a little bit more. There's a little bit more in depth from what that little description. The mini rooms. So the way television is worked out is you hire a showrunner. Showrunner has an idea for a show. The showrunner then hires executive writers. People who've been in the business for a while. Those executive writers and the showrunner then hire mid-level writers. Then after those mid-level writers, and subsequent writers below them, there are 2 to 3 writers that are hired that have no writing experience. This is usually people who have never done this or have very little experience. The way that the studios have been trying to renegotiate and make these rooms is that they want to have the showrunner and like a handful of executive writers, not the ones that you would hire in the writer's room for the entire duration of the show. They want these showrunners and mini writers room to not just write a pilot. They want to say, hey, why don't you write a few episodes so we can see how the show goes to see if we're going to pick it up? When normally they would write a pilot, the showrunner would write a pilot, he would pitch that pilot, it would get picked up, and then they would pay, okay, maybe that's not what you need.
Was that your actual credit card?
Yep.
All right.
Actually, that was the health savings card.
Okay.
Little buddy, how about that? How about a phone? Oh, you want money? He's starting early, I can see.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of the mini writers room was that they would write some of these episodes as if it was going to television, but they're not picking it up yet. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to limit their costs by making the writers room small and getting them to do most of the work
Right.
before they have to go to production. Another thing that they've been trying to introduce is all this chat GPT and AI stuff, because we've seen an explosion in that and interest in that. Executives believe that they don't, some executives, because there's some that do not feel this way, feel that writers
Mm-hmm.
I just preach, buddy, preach, are not necessary to the writing process and to the creative process, and that they can be replaced. That's one of the biggest sticking points, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to walk into and this is the analogy that I was given. They're trying to walk into a restaurant.
Given by who?
There's a writer, I can't remember what his name is right
Okay.
now. I was trying to go to Twitter to pull it up, but my boy is a little. Hey, how about this? Hey, yeah. How about that? So the idea is that they're trying to walk into a restaurant and ask how much a meal costs. And instead, if I buy this, how much would it cost? And then they're trying to renegotiate how much something costs by still getting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of walking in and saying, "Can I get the sandwich?" And the sandwich is $10, and then trying to say, "Well, what if I don't eat the sandwich? How much is the sandwich?" Its sandwich is still $10, dude. The price doesn't change whether you eat it or not. The sandwich, the price is the price. So in other words, they're trying to get a way around paying for those writers. And the writers are like, that's one sticking point. The other sticking point is this writer's contract was written before the explosion. Remember, in 2007, that was the last writer's strike. That was 15 years ago. That writer's strike and that contract was written before the explosion of streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
So the residuals are different. When they wrote that contract, streaming services and streaming content was limited to YouTube. Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max. Netflix was still around, but not in its current form. But Disney Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, none of those were there then.
Mm-hmm.
And so the contracts that are structured are not structured for the streaming and the residuals and how you would be compensated. Right now, the studios are just reaping all that money.
Right.
And if you look at some of the reports that have come out, it's not because they're losing money or they're not profitable. The projections that they're getting from Wall Street is causing them to lay people off. So that's the big sticking point for the writers.
I read one article on Collider by Marco Vito Otto,
Mm-hmm.
who apparently is a writer. I guess he wrote an article, or this person wrote an article for Collider, and the headline is "Entertainment Industry Loses $10 billion in one day following writer strike." And what it essentially is talking about is the fact that once the writer strike happened, a lot of stocks for different movie companies started to go down a little bit to the total of like $10 billion in share values were lost.
Now,
The writer is saying that could be a good thing because a company doesn't want their share value to go down. The issue is some of the other companies, like people who have streaming services like Disney and Warner Brothers, their value didn't drop at all.
yes.
And in fact, sometimes it gained a little bit. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how long it takes before those values start to drop. And I guess that's more of how much content these streaming services have banked.
Not only that, also there are other extenuating circumstances that are causing some of the turmoil we're seeing on Wall Street. We both of us work in the news business. We know that banks have been failing. Silicon Valley, was it First Republic? Is that the name of it? The most recent one that was sold off to Jamie Dimon's J.P. Morgan. I don't want to say Jamie Dimon because I'm not sure if Jamie Dimon is J.P. Morgan, but I know it was sold off to J.P. Morgan. We talked about there was a couple other banks that failed as well, but Silicon Valley was the big one. And now that's not a huge bank. They had about 250. I want to say that's a medium-sized bank. So the fact that they failed has also caused ripples in the market. We also have to remember the interest rates have been the Fed is raising interest rates to stem the tide of inflation. So we've seen some volatility in the market. So that has also played a part in it. People are speculating that we're maybe going into a recession. So that is also fueling some of this. If you're looking to buy a house, with the if you know anything about the interest rates, the buying power of what the interest rate is. If the interest rate was 3%, that's less money you'd pay in interest. If it's higher, like it is right now, it's a little over 6%, close to 7. You pay more of you pay more in that interest rate. So that's more money not going to your principal, more money you're paying for that loan. That is part that people are saying that is also part of this downturn in the stocks. That's all of this coming together in this super Voltron, 5 lions of financial crisis going on. One of the other things that is a sticking point for some of the writers, and I don't know if you've seen him, Adam Conover, who is the creator and showrunner from Adam Ruins Everything.
Mm-hmm.
He did an interview on CNN, and he brought up a very good point, and it was something that I was talking to a friend of the show, Avery, about, when Avery was like, "Do you see what some of these writers make?" And I was like, "Yeah, but that's not all of them." And I said, "Think about this." I said, "You're complaining about the writers. I understand some of them do make a very good living, but that's not all of them. You know what you never complain about? The executives and the CEOs. All these people who get laid off are always at the bottom of the pyramid."
Mm-hmm.
Adam Conover brought up a very good point. David Zaslav makes $250 million. He makes $250 million. If you add up all the CEOs of the streaming services and content providers, their salary for 1 year is $750 million. That's more than all of the writers in the guild and union make over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So before you start complaining about whether or not the writers deserve this money, yada, 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 they're not adequately being paid and compensated for their work. That's what this is about. And also, if you start looking at what's been going on in the market when it comes to these shows, think about your truncated, split up seasons. Have you started to notice that? Remember, Stranger Things was split up into season 4 was split up into 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why that is? Is because once a show gets to a certain point, the contracts demands that we pay these people a little bit more money because the show is profitable. The show is still going on. So what they're trying to do is squeeze as much as they can before they get to a 5th season. That's why Netflix cancels a lot of their shows before they get to a 5th season. Another thing too is, if you look at some of the trajectories of these shows, you don't really develop an audience in your rhythm until you get past your 3rd season. So if you look at some of the greatest shows on television, they went on past 5 seasons and they hit their stride in season 3 to season 7. That's when a lot of people say that's when the show is the best. So networks, streaming services are trying to get around all of these things that were built into that contract in 2007, and they've been doing a very good job of it.
So what is the move going forward then?
They have to hold out long enough so that the scripted televisions shows that they have banked, and the executives realize that they need writers. Some of them are going to be arrogant enough to think that they can keep going, but perfect example is Game of Thrones is still going forward with production. However, you don't have any writers to do rewrites on that show. You don't have any writers who can help smooth out that story and dialogue because writers stay on the show the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Rewrites, plot points, all of that stuff is guided by a writer's hand. And if you have any idea of how good a writer is, go back and look at Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace suffered from the writer's strike of 2007 because they thought they could keep going with that movie and they didn't need it to work. And how did that turn out for them?
I don't know if they thought that they could do it. I think
They
they
no,
just
they literally they said we have a window. They hired once the writer's strike started,
right.
and then it
But
came
I
back.
don't know if it was like,
Arrogance?
oh, no, you let me finish.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I don't know if it was a thing of we can do this without the writers, just like, oh, we're already moving full steam ahead. Let's see what happens.
That's essentially saying we can do it without the writers. If
I
you're
don't agree with that.
if you're think about it like this, if you're saying, well, let's see what happens, you're saying that essentially these components in this train are not necessary. You're just going to hope that I don't run into any problems, that I will need these writers. You're thinking that script that I have, that original script is good enough to make it through the entire shooting process. And we know for a fact that's not always the case. How many great movies have we gotten reshoots, rewrites? They had to bring the cast back to shoot something. We've seen
It's always been seen as recently, and I think it's more because we are more connected to the internet and stuff.
Mhm.
But reshoots have been a thing for
Yep.
for so long.
Mhm.
But it's only more recently within the past, I don't know, 10 years. Like, oh, this movie's undergoing reshoots, it must have trouble, which isn't necessarily the case. Reshoots are built into a lot of stuff. Kevin Feige has said, like, when they do their movies, they build in time for reshoots now.
Just in case something happens, or if they need to make a change, they need to make a pivot. That's just smart business. And I say that to say what we're seeing right now is an undervaluation. Ooh, excuse me. Got another one? No, just one? Oh, you're not like your daddy. You just sneeze once. Okay.
He's a regular person. Yeah.
He's a mutant.
Yeah.
Real people sneeze more than once, buddy. And really? Well, how about that? It's very suspicious of your own top. Because if you valued the writers, if you valued what they stood for, you would at least make a counter proposal. You wouldn't just give them nothing. You see what I'm saying? And I think
So
that's
they
go ahead.
they have given them stuff.
What
Let's
stuff
be
did they give
clear.
them? What did
They
they
have
give them?
given them raises on stuff, but the issue is they haven't come to the table on everything that the writers want, which is the writers deserve more. But let's not say that the producers
have-
haven't done anything.
Hold on. I haven't seen I haven't seen what they have actually come to the table with. So
I
that's
will give you. Well, let's
Okay.
bring that up before we say that they didn't
Okay.
do it. Let's see, because I brought up an article. This is also from Variety.
it's like I said, let me know because I don't want to be incorrect.
This is Gene Mattis or Madas.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Writer's strike. Inside the room as talks collapsed. To a lot of people outside the negotiating room, a strike by Hollywood writers felt inevitable, but it didn't feel that way inside the room until the last day or two. Negotiators for both labor and management believed that the other side would give and that a deal would be reached at the last moment. But picket lines in Los Angeles and New York this week tell a different story. Blah, blah, blah.
I see it now.
On 30th, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers delivered a 40-page package of proposals to WGA's negotiating committee. It did not include key elements that the Writers Guild of America had insisted are essential for sealing a new 3-year contract, including, and this is what you're talking about, including a mandatory minimum number of weeks for TV writers and a minimum staff size for writers' rooms. The AMPTP, whatever, thought the guild might accept that those items and others that the studios see as non-starters would have to be dropped. We know that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. From the WGA vantage point, a strike became inevitable when Carol Lombardini, the long-serving president of the AMPTP, informed negotiators that the studios would make no further moves on several of the guild's core issues. Once we got into the evening, there was a moment where it became very clear that they had nothing more to give and were in fact asking us to drop most of our key proposals, said Michelle Moroney, vice president of WGA West. Motion Picture was willing to sweeten the deal at the margins, but only if the guild withdrew those key proposals, said Key Kaiser, co-chair of the WGA negotiating committee and a former WGA West president.
So here's what the
Here. This is what. Okay. Producer companies say they have already offered historic improvements on the guild contract, including an 11% increase in minimum rates in the first year for writer producers. That includes a 4% increase on all minimums, plus a 7% increase to create a premium tier for everyone at or above level of co-producer. The 4% increase was not a final offer and could have gone higher, they say. So I just want to throw that in there. So they had stuff, but it still wasn't the basic core tenets of what these writers needed and deserved.
And when it came to money, the WGA's proposal would gain writers approximately $429 million per year. The AMPTP's offer is approximately $86 million per year, 48%, which would come from the minimums increase, the guild said. And this is according to People Magazine and Deadline. This is one of those things where I feel like you have to be careful when you're writing this, because this is something I brought up when we talked about settlements and how you write stories, and how we cover news, and how the standpoint of how you look at this story. Jewel, perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewel settlement. Jewel was sued for trying to for making
tasty vaping
Yes.
cigarettes for kids.
Yes. And the flavors that they were making were bubble gum, honey mustard, blueberry. I don't know.
Delicious.
They sound delicious, don't
Honey mustard sounds great.
But they were settling and getting $40 million settlements. And this was some of the scripts we saw, right? Oh, you make me laugh, buddy. Oh, man, you're growing up so fast. I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, it's $40 million seems like a lot of money. If someone walked in right now and said, Leroy, you had $40 million, I'm closing this laptop and I'm going to go get my realtor and we're going to go buy a house tomorrow. But think about how much money Jewel makes in profits per year. It's in the billions. So $40 million, which seems like a lot of money, if you don't include, if it seems like a lot of money until you include the profits that Jewel makes.
Mm-hmm.
That's some of the things that some of these stories I think are not including. Yes, the writers look to be asking for more money, but then when you look at the amount of money the CEOs are making, how much money Disney is making, how much money these streaming platforms and their parent companies are making, it's not a lot of money that they're asking for. And yeah, come here. Here you go. Whoa. Let me get that back. How will your feet move quick? Good Lord, man. If I had the energy and the quickness of an infant, I could take over the world. I'll tell you right now, no one gets more done in a day than a determined toddler.
I would believe that.
So that's another thing that I also wanted to highlight, that when we tell these stories and when we talk about the writer's strike, we need to encompass all of it. We need to encompass the companies that they work for, that they're being contracted to work for, how much money that they're making. Because remember, the writers are asking for a pay increase. They're not asking for residuals, as far as like, they're not residuals. That's the wrong word. They're not asking for a piece of the toy merchandise that these shows are making. They're not asking for, you see what I'm saying? Because let's look at a show like Stranger Things. How much Hawkins shit do you think they've made over the years? Let's look at Disney. How much money do you think Disney and Hasbro has made over that toy merchandise? HBO Max, which owns Game of Thrones. So that's the kind of stuff that I want us to make sure we recognize. These companies are not cash poor. It's not as if they're not, like when they talk about, stuff is getting more expensive. Yes, everything is more expensive. I just paid $2 for a dozen eggs. Like, stuff is expensive. And I would like to see these people compensated for their work. But it's not just movies and television that is not valuing writers. Did you see the some of the I don't want to say tweets or some of the information that came out from David Gator, who used to work at BioWare?
Oh, oh, he was talking about writer stuff, right? Yeah,
Yep. He was talking about how
I
at
did see
BioWare
that. Yeah,
he felt that now keep in mind, this is a man who worked at that company for 16 years, 16 or 17 years, who worked at BioWare. He is credited for building the world for Dragon Age, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Origins, and Dragon Age Inquisition. He's I know, buddy. Give it to him. He said that while he was there, he felt as if the writers were resented because that they were asking for complex storylines, and that the gaming developers just felt like, oh, we can just make stuff happen. Now, he has a little bit of he has some truth to his statement, because let's look at the last 2 to 3 BioWare games that came out. Anthem, Andromeda, their 4-person co-op game that didn't even get released. Yeah, story might be important. Writers might be important. So
I was looking through just different stories of what's happening. They're saying you might get a shorter season. The 3rd season of Abbott Elementary might be shorter because of the writer's strike.
Because remember, Quinta's part of the guild. So a lot of these people who write shows, who are the actors and actresses in front of the camera, some of them are actually writers and showrunners themselves.
Right.
Robin Thede for that Black Lady sketch show is also a writer. She's the showrunner. She's a writer and a producer of the show. So a lot of these people are writers. We saw Rob Lowe down there in the picket line.
What do we think? What are these networks going to do to
reality TV?
More reality TV? I mean, I feel like we have a lot of reality TV now.
You do. What did David Zaslav tell you when he was combining HBO Max and Discovery?
I mean, I remember talking about reality TV.
And people feel like he has a disdain for scripted television. And he actually had to come out and say, I don't hate scripted television, because they felt that that was how he was presenting himself. He has made a fortune for Discovery, for the reality TV shows that he has helped create and ushered in. I'm not saying this man is an idiot. This man is a creative genius when it comes to reality television.
Right. He just may not work with scripted television well.
Yes. And that's one of those things where, and here's another thing that I don't think people realize, that the reason why they want to take the name HBO out of HBO Max and just call it Max. And this is something I didn't even think about. As they start to migrate more stuff from Discovery Plus onto the HBO Max platform, they're worried that the HBO brand may become watered down and may become looked at less than if you pair it next to 90 Day Fiance with The Outsider, with The Watchmen, with True Detective. This is the show
that's a statement.
And you think about it, it makes sense. Instead, just call it Max, and then you can put everything on it, and you don't change the perception of the fact that this storied franchise, or not franchise, this storied commodity, I know, buddy, has Dr. Pimple Popper, whatever, you see what I'm saying, next to it. And honestly, when I heard that and I thought about it, I was like, that's genius. Like, they know what they're doing. And I was like, okay, hold up, that's smart. I don't like it, but it actually makes sense, doesn't it?
We were talking about reality shows. This is something from Polygon. Fox is sending a bizarre collection of celebrities to fake Mars for a new reality show.
Can we pick them?
No,
Because
I
I'd
think
be
they're.
interested in
I
that.
think they're already. Oh, this is a photo. Here we go. You know what?
Yeah,
We have the power of the internet. Why don't I do this?
because this is my thing. I saw that. I saw that headline. Here's my question: can you pick them? Because that's something that's interactive. Get the people involved. Get them. Start making them train, and then let the audience pick one of the celebrities or a couple of celebrities.
So these are the contestants: Lance Armstrong, Natasha Leggero, Marshawn Lynch, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Adam Ripon, Ronda Rousey, Tom Schwartz, Richard Sherman. Is it Tinash? I know it's a
Where?
musician, but I don't know how you pronounce the name.
Where?
Tinashe. Tinashe? Tinashe?
I'm not seeing a
Oh,
musician. I don't know. You on your own on that one, buddy.
all right, fair enough. Portia Williams Gobadia, Tallulah Willis, and Ariel Williams. Those are the people.
Um,
So that is a show. Starts June 5th.
so I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing more of this foolishness.
Sure.
If you don't remember in 2007, a lot of people don't realize this. Some of the big television shows that you got from this writer strike was Big Brother and The Apprentice. Yeah. And the writer strike that happened before 2007, the one before that, guess what it gave you?
What's that?
Cops.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Any other final thoughts on the writer strike?
There's more. I'm quite sure we're missing a lot.
We're missing a hell of a lot, I'm
I'm
sure.
quite sure that I would be on it a little bit better if I wasn't wrangling an infant who is like literally looking at himself and finding it
And
hilarious
slobbering all over himself. I
and
love it.
sees himself. Hey, yeah, there you are.
That's
There
you.
you are. That's you. That's you, buddy. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is unfortunate. I think this is a very unfortunate situation. I'm not going to go as far as say that they should get back to work because they provide so much entertainment in a world right now that probably needs it. What I will say is I hope that they get everything that they're asking for because
sure.
these companies can afford it. If you're new to our channel, understand that I've always been pro labor. Boom. I've always been pro labor. I support the guild and everything they do. Hell, I hope to one day be honored to join. There are many stories. If you go on Twitter, Instagram, you'll see many stories of people telling their story about what it was like to be in the guild, what it's like to get their first guild card, the opportunities that the guild has afforded them when it comes to healthcare, opportunities in different platforms. One of the things that other guild members have said and people in solidarity have done, comic writers have said, we will not work as scabs because a lot of companies have been asking and been trying to get people who are in a creative field. And Tom King has said, I stopped work on a secret project, probably for DC, in solidarity with the Writers Guild. The writers, what is the UK Writers Guild? Their equivalency in Australia, I want to say. Maybe not Australia. I want to say there's another, but the UK equivalency of the Writers Guild has said we will not work with these studios. We are standing in solidarity. So I hope they get what they're looking for. I hope everything works out. I would like to see my shows come back, but if not, I got stuff on DVD.
Stuff on DVD. I love it.
There's stuff I haven't seen yet.
There's so much content. I wonder, as somebody, I saw this and I can't remember where I saw it. I always like to credit the people who came up with these ideas, but they're saying, depending on how long this goes, like we talked about, a big issue, this contract that, or this around this time that wasn't around last time is streaming, and streaming services and platforms are kind of already geared up for this because they kind of dealt with this when we were dealing with the pandemic in terms of how you schedule what when you can't necessarily have a writers room together
Yep.
because of the pandemic. So it's almost kind of like they have a preview of how they're gonna react. So we'll see.
Yep.
All right, the other big topic, Xbox, man, y'all got to do better.
So tell the people what
Microsoft, y'all
happened.
got to do better.
Tell
I
the people
mean,
what happened.
it's
Start,
it's the
start with
meme
the
of
consoles. Start with the consoles, and then we'll get to Redfall.
I don't even know what that means. Sorry, I don't know where you're going.
Sorry, I was going to say start with the consoles in the sense of they.
That kid is loving life.
Did you see he dropped it? Heard the noise, then looked at the camera.
Yeah,
You are a little ham. You better not bite me. We've been playing Don't Bite Daddy. Hey, as you can see,
he's you about to lose.
as you can see, he likes that game.
Yeah.
But I was going to say start with the consoles and the fact of sales. If you had those numbers in front of you.
Oh, I wasn't really worried about sales.
Oh, you weren't
I
talking
don't.
about
I
sales.
don't. No, I was just no. I was talking about Redfall is just the latest in a series
Oh,
of flub ups and fuck ups.
see, I was going to go with the Xbox sales numbers and the fact that Xbox sales were down. And that was the first information that came out April 26th from Insider Gaming. Xbox X and S sales fell 30%.
Okay,
And that's Xbox released at a massive 30% from last year.
gotcha.
And that is a huge problem.
Sure.
And the reason why I say that started, then you have Redfall.
See, I wasn't even thinking about the sales so much as gaming stuff. For me, and not saying that was an issue because I just didn't know about it, but for me, Redfall is the game is a four-player, single player, but also co-op game where you're fighting vampires. I think
Yep.
in a place in Massachusetts.
Yes,
Probably.
Redfall is the name of the island.
Okay.
Mhm.
Made by Arcane, the people
Yep.
who gave us Prey, the people who
Dishonored.
gave us Dishonored.
Deathloop.
Yes, but I don't know if it's the same studio in Arcane that did Arcane, that did Redfall.
Arcane, what is it, Austin?
Maybe. I guess we got computers, right? I guess I can look that up. Redfall says Arcane Studios. Deathloop. That says also Arcane Studios. Okay, I thought it was like a different faction within Arcane. I don't know. Either way, for the most part, Arcane Studios have had very well reviewed games.
Yep.
I don't know that they've always been critically successful, but I mean they've done okay.
Yeah, I want to say they all. Prey was critically successful. Both the
Sorry,
Dishonored
not critically, commercially successful.
Dishonored, the Dishonored games were. I'm not sure about Prey. I know they were critically.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
still
People
talk about
love
it.
them critically for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Prey is still talked about, and people would like a sequel for Prey.
Yeah. So Redfall came out on
This
the
week.
2nd,
Yep.
May 2nd. Yeah. And it is not doing well. It is getting, and I won't say review bombed. It's just getting negative reviews. People
I would say
it's
review bombed.
well, to me, when I feel like review bombed, I feel like that's a concerted effort to do something negative, even when it doesn't deserve it.
I would say I
That's how I always looked at review bombed.
I wish there was a different term then because it is getting reviewed negatively everywhere.
Yeah.
So because right now, I don't know what Metacritic is, but I know IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, and they have said that is their worst first-party title from Microsoft in consoles in a while. Like your first party is getting a 4 out of 10. That ain't good. And keep in mind,
Metacritic has it at a 59 right now.
and keep in mind, that's one of two big first-party releases for Microsoft this year. This and Starfield.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, their other big supposed to be critically acclaimed, commercially successful game, didn't even launch with the system, Halo Infinite. So they can't afford, and the reason why I compared it with the console sales is they can't afford first party titles failing like that, because what is the knock Microsoft has always had when it comes to their systems?
Where are the games? Yeah,
Why should I buy
especially where are the games that are made by Microsoft and Xbox and all that stuff.
Yep. Where are the
Um,
Microsoft games?
We've been talking about for years, or at least for years, I've been championing Xbox Live
Game
and
Pass?
or Game Pass. I think Game Pass is still one of the best deals in gaming.
You have convinced me of it.
Having said that, because there's so many games to play, there's still a bunch of stuff that I haven't played yet that I want to play. But the more and more you release games that are subpar, and maybe you will fix them eventually, but releasing them out of the jump and they're broken just kind of devalues Game Pass. You're like, Game Pass is cool, but I really don't care about these first party titles because they're not hitting on anything. I enjoyed the single player campaign of Halo Infinite. The multiplayer is definitely something to be desired, and 343 Studios are
Do you still play it?
Industries. Oh, I mean, the multiplayer stuff, I was never the biggest multiplayer person anyway. I was more about single player.
Okay.
I don't have Twitch skills like that to be going up against 12-year-olds getting shot in the face and saying racist stuff. That ain't for me.
Hey, man. You could get racist stuff anywhere. You might as well get shot in the face while you're doing it.
Okay, fair enough. But, it just seems like every time Microsoft and Xbox make a step forward, they take 2 steps backwards.
Man,
they're buying all these studios.
They're going further back than 2.
Yeah, they're buying all these studios, great, but nothing's coming out. And when stuff finally does come out, this is not good.
Now, here's my question to you.
I would say like the last big hit that Microsoft had, and it wasn't long ago, Hi-Fi Rush, which is fantastic. But again, as awesome as that game was, I wouldn't call it a AAA game. I call it like a double A game.
And 2,
which is fine.
And 2, here's the difference. And I have a question I want to ask you, because I have always said one thing and you've always said something different.
Okay.
Hi-Fi Rush was a surprise. It was not a game that had a marketing campaign that we have seen for 2 years, that did not have trailers at video game awards and video game conferences, Gamescom, E3. No, not E3. Summer Games Fest, or whatever Jeff Keighley's over there doing.
Yeah.
Trying to take over the world. So Hi-Fi Rush is a nice hit. It's a nice notch. It's a thumbnail. It ain't Redfall, because Redfall was supposed to be the game that was like, hey, Microsoft is here. Now, here's my question. You brought up the fact that Microsoft in the past had problems when they brought in third-party studios and they bought them and made them first-party studios. They had a problem with how they handled them, how they developed them. Do they still have that problem? Because Phil Spencer has come out and said, we did not do due diligence with the devs at Redfall. We did not help them where they needed it.
I think it's a combination of stuff. And again, as somebody who has never made a video game, only likes them passionately, and can only talk about them as from a fan perspective. From what I understand, Redfall for Arcane Studios was made on
Unreal Engine 4.
Unreal Engine. That is the first time Arcane Studios has used Unreal Engine for a game. The other games they had were under different engines, and I just looked them up before. Or I looked
Was
up.
it Frostbite?
It looks like Deathloop was on the Void engine. Dishonored game engine. Let's see. Might be Unreal Engine 3, possibly. Yeah. So it looks like this was the first time they had used that particular Unreal Engine. So I don't know how much that played into it. And when Microsoft acquired Bethesda Game Studios and all the different things they were working on, I wonder how far along Redfall was when Microsoft bought them.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the question about Starfield, because they bought Bethesda, while Starfield was in the process of being made, they were halfway done. Starfield has been delayed, I don't know how many times. Remember, Redfall was delayed too.
Mhm.
Do you believe, as IGN has said, and the only reason why I bring that up is because IGN has some of the people at IGN um, have said, is that better, buddy? You just down there having a field day. Man, he is going to go to sleep so hard when I get done with this. Do you believe that Starfield has to be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10?
I heard that podcast.
After Redfield has I said Redfield combined in two games. After Redfall has failed, do you believe it has to be a 9 or a 10?
I think there's a lot of pressure, and I understand that, because let's say Starfield was an 8 and it wasn't a 10 out of 10. I could see people being like, "Oh, see, that's just another thing of it being not good." For me, what's interesting is, to go further on that, we've always called, or you've always said this, and I agree, Bethesda is Bugthesda, especially with the Elder Scrolls games.
Mm-hmm.
The Elder Scrolls made by Todd Howard and his group. So I wonder how buggy Elder Scrolls is not Elder Scrolls, how buggy Starfield is going to be, and how much slack people are going to cut it as they play through the game.
Because here's the thing, and this is something I've noticed because you've introduced me to Digital Foundry. Thank you for that. I feel like certain companies and certain games get a benefit of the doubt. Perfect example, Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor is buggy.
Mhm.
Jedi Survivor has some issues, frame rate issues. It has some menu issues on next gen consoles. We're not even talking PC port. They said PC port should not have been released. This is from Digital Foundry. They literally were like, how did this game get released on PC?
Mhm.
There's no reason for it. It should have been released on consoles. And they said even consoles have issues, but it is not as bad as the PC port.
Mhm.
Do you know what IGN gave Jedi Survivor? And what everybody is
Probably
saying,
an 8, maybe.
9 out of 10.
Okay.
And this is from Digital Foundry. When is performance going to be an issue in grading these games? Because just because you like the game does not excuse some of the performance and technical issues for that game. Perfect
Now,
example.
do we know what system IGN was playing that game on?
They were playing it on they were playing it on PS5.
Okay.
And so the question that they brought up, and the analogy they brought up was, if you were watching a movie and the plot was good, but there was tearing in the movie, there was jumps in the movie as you were watching it, there were technical issues with the movie, we would criticize that movie.
Mhm.
We wouldn't just look at the plot and how much we enjoyed it. We would criticize that movie. Why is games any different? And I question IGN's 9 out of 10 for a game that has technical issues. However, we're overlooking, because everybody likes the Jedi Fallen games and the Jedi Survivor game, and we like Respawn.
I would push back on that and say I don't know who that particular reviewer was in terms of how buggy the game was for them.
But see, here's the thing, and this
Because
is why
in your playtest, if you have one bug but everybody else has 30 bugs, you can't review for 30 bugs. You review for the one bug.
and here's my problem with the review process when it comes to that. Then you need to have an aggregate of reviewers, not just one person. 3 people play the game, then you average those people's scores, because now one person is giving, and I don't know exactly how IGN does it, but I know they gave it a 9 out of 10.
Mhm.
When everyone else is reviewing it, and we're seeing critics say this game is a little buggy, and they had to release a day one patch to fix a lot of the issues. Now that PC port ain't gonna be good for a while. Go look at what it is on Steam right now.
Star Wars Jedi. Let's see. What's Star Wars? Star
Jedi
Wars.
Survivor.
Yeah. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has a 79 on Metacritic. Let's see what.
Okay.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor has an 86
Okay.
on Metacritic.
Um,
So it's not just IGN that gave it a high score.
and I understand that. I guess what I'm saying is you cannot just say it has a high score because it's a console game when it was released on 3 different platforms. You see what I'm saying? And that's the problem that I have with it. And the reason why I bring it up when it comes in relation to Starfield, how Starfield's game is not going to be reviewed in a vacuum. It's going to be reviewed in the sense of it is a Microsoft game, it is a first party Microsoft game, it is a Bethesda game, and it is a brand new IP. All of those things are going to be tacked onto this review coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like, unfortunately, Starfield is going to have expectations on it that it may never reach just because of the world that is going to be released in.
I think the reviewing community, for the most part, isn't going to worry about. Like, I don't think it's going to get docked if it's not a perfect game.
I disagree.
I think that is going to come more for enthusiast press like us.
Well, I disagree because this is the thing that because you've talked about this, you've chastised me on it, and I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire. We both know we bring our own prejudices into whatever we're writing or reviewing.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we like, our experiences, and the idea is not to acknowledge those things when we write or when we review something, and to hold ourselves accountable to that we have these. And that's why I say when it comes to reviewing, I don't know if these people are going to acknowledge those. Perfect example. I like Jake Baldino. I watch his content. I love his channel. Falcon. I love Falcon. But Jake Baldino has said on his thing when he reviews it, he's upfront about, I am a Star Wars fanboy. So I think some of people will actually be upfront and honest about when they review something and how they feel about something. But I don't know if everybody's going to be that honest and transparent. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of stuff going forward. Are you going to be transparent?
But is that a enthusiast press or is that like a real outlet? I consider those two different things.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like I consider like Polygon and IGN and Vox and Giant Bomb, like all the big name sites. In my mind,
rock, paper, scissors. Yeah,
I consider them like a different type of reviewer as opposed to somebody who is a not even a content creator. I consider that different.
Well, I will say this.
The hell?
My baby is got a hold of an outlet. So hold that for. I'll be right back.
Got black lights going on. Strobing out over here. Ah, there we go.
Okay, I'm back.
Time to bring out the glow sticks.
The gremlin, so he crawled under the table. He got to the extension cord and the plug, and he pulled the plug out of the wall. And as I was walking over, his little self was crawling away, shooting that way, because he knew he did something, because he saw the light flicker. But back to what you were saying, I like Jake Baldino's content, and I bring him up because at least in his content, I understand he's a content creator. He may not be a quote unquote journalist, but he's been covering video games for a number of years. He's very honest and upfront with a lot of things. And I feel he has been genuine when he gets review copies, how they feel about it, kind of like Digital Foundry. He's not as technical as they are, but he does release the videos, things the game doesn't tell you before you buy. Where I feel like IGN, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not one of those people who comes down on IGN. I like what they do. I have always been a fan of IGN. I'm a little critical of them because two things. One, they got rid of the comic content that they did. So upset about that because we needed more of that content and more people who had an objective opinion when it came to comics like they did video games. So I felt some kind of way about that. And two, they have been running Jedi Survivor content and videos and first looks and all that stuff. So I question their objectivity a little bit in the sense of how much of that review, and again, I'm not accusing them, but I'm asking the question, how much of that review is an honest review? And how much of it is you're not trying to piss off someone who has paid a lot of money to advertise on your site?
I think that's a fair opinion. My opinion is different in that I think it is the same way, at least how we believe.
Mhm.
You have news,
Yep.
which is separate from
Sales.
sales and
Yep.
marketing.
Yep.
So I think it is entirely possible for sales and marketing to make deals with game companies like, hey, we're going to advertise all this, we get this money, and for a reviewer to do something else. I believe, at least I have to
You
believe
hope.
that.
You hope.
No, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope.
Okay, I have to believe that they are able to keep that separate. Um, I know that is an issue that people have always brought up with all kinds of sites all the time,
Yes.
and Gamergate, all kind of starting that, adding that too. But I firmly have to believe that they're able to keep that separate.
I hope they keep it separate.
Yeah.
I've noticed because again I watch their content. I'm not a subscriber, but I am a person who enjoys what they do and I watch a lot of their stuff. Hell, when we go to Trailer React, sometimes we can't find the trailer because it is exclusive to IGN.
Yeah.
So I'm not knocking them. I
know they've had advertisements for Redfall recently, and we know they just bombed that game. So
They did. And
Yeah.
and to their credit, thank you for that. Because we have both said with game, because I just talked to a buddy of mine and we were talking about, he was like, and I said, before he bought a game, I was like, hey man, you need to start looking at these reviews because he bought Jedi Survivor. And he was like, man, I could see it on my television, some of the issues. And I was like, did you already buy it? He was like, yeah. And I was like, hey man, it's already $10 off. And he was like, and I was like, yeah, man, you got to wait. Because I told him about what happened with me in Callisto Protocol. And I was like, I still like the game, but I said, I could have waited a few months.
Sure.
That shit is $30 now. Shit, it was $20 not too long ago. I paid $70 for that. Well, 60, almost 70 with tax because I had a $10 off coupon. But I like what they do. I just wonder how Starfield is going to be received. Hey man, you better leave them albums alone. But I do question what happens with Starfield.
Okay.
We know in June 12th they're going to have an Xbox showcase. Is it June 12th? It's in June. I don't know if it's 12th, but I know it's in June. And they're going to show gameplay. They're going to show some more stuff that has to do with it. I'm just hoping I'm hoping it lives up to expectations.
For sure, and not only that, but it can't just be Starfield though, right? Because
what else is coming out?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like what I mean is, even if Starfield is the greatest game ever, that's only one game. You got 20. You got 24 studios. What I'm saying is, you got to show me something beyond Starfield. Personally,
I agree with you.
I'm getting to the point where I'm like, Xbox, and this is a joke we've always say about me all the time. I don't know how to spend my money, so I will always, if I'm able, I will always buy all the consoles. I'll never be just a Sony person or an Xbox person. So either way, I don't really care who wins as long as we're getting good content. Having said that,
guess who's back?
I could definitely see myself not. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. I could definitely see myself not stressing or pushing as hard for first party Xbox stuff if it's going to continue to disappoint and be crappy, and just wait for it to come, just wait for it to go down in price and pick it up. Or even the fact that I have Game Pass, like, okay, I can play it this way.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I will say about that. I understand they have so many studios. Kids just get one game right. I'm like this. I understand that, and I'm here. I'm hearing you. I'm not even going that far. Just get one right. Just get one studio that you bought, that you paid all this money for, and this is why not to go into Activision, I can see why they need Activision. There's a reason why they're trying to spend $70 billion for Activision. Because you need it. Because you have a horrible track record. And I'm not asking you for the 22. I'm asking for the one. Just get it's almost like when people say who are struggling with different things, they're like, just get through the day. Don't look at the 365. Get through today. Microsoft, just give me one. And that's what Microsoft has an issue with right now. They need the one. And at the end of the day, they don't have a good track record. And I don't know what it is. And I wish your boy who works for Forbes, is it Forbes or Bloomberg?
Jason Schreier?
Yes.
Bloomberg.
I hope he writes not an expose, but he can explain it, because I want someone to explain, how does Microsoft continue to fail at this? Because they do. Whereas Sony, with the PlayStation, keeps turning out the hits. And I just want to know why. How does Sony continue to get it right? How does Nintendo continue to get it right? And keep in mind, Nintendo's hardware is 6 years old, and it was old when it came out. And they continuously turn out things that people will sell a body part for.
In 2 weeks, you got Breath of the Wild 2 coming out here. People about to lose their minds.
And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be in the running for Game of the Year.
Oh,
and it's probably going to win. And the only way it doesn't win is if Spider-Man or if Starfield is the greatest game ever.
Yeah.
And that's why I said with Microsoft, as much as I like Microsoft, and this is the thing, I want an Xbox. I want to play Starfield. I wanted to play Redfall. But let's be honest, Redfall was not beating down doors.
And here's the thing. Every time we saw Redfall, I'm kind of like, I don't really care about this.
Yep.
But that goes to a whole thing of this, and I haven't played Redfall yet. I could, because I have an Xbox and I have Game Pass, so I could play it. But is Redfall also like a it's not a free to play thing, but is it a thing where like they're gonna update it continuously? Was that the plan? Like
supposedly that was the plan. That was the plan. So in other words, these 4 protagonists were supposed to be paired with other people. So going forward, you were going to get, because if I remember correctly, in one of the other showcases or whatever Microsoft does, they talked about these were not the only players, the only characters. So eventually they were going to add more. I know Phil Spencer, and this is the first time I've heard Phil Spencer come out as apologetic, where he was like, "Hey man, we effed up." I can respect that.
Yeah.
However, you can't keep saying I'm sorry like in South Park. I'm sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. Like, you can't keep saying that. Eventually, you gotta make a hit. And I'm not asking for the 22. Give me the one.
There we go. On that, folks, that'll do it for us. Now that's for the 22 asking for the one.
You see what he did?
Give me the one.
Give me the one. Can you do that? Do it again? Give me the one. Come on.
There we go. Give me the one. Folks, you want to keep Leroy's baby fed, like, comment, subscribe to get us them viewers. Help get these numbers up. Spread the gospel.
Because otherwise, I'm going to have to take something off.
Yeah, there we go. Spread the gospel. Let people know what we do here. Let's see. Find We Trying Y'all on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. What got you through the week?
Dead Space and Law and Order. Okay. It's not as good. The new season is not as good as seasons past, but it is interesting to see how they're tackling some of the new things, situations we've been experiencing, some of the new controversies we've had. It is interesting. And Dead Space, we're going to do a show about like these remakes, and I was against it. I was hating. I'm not even gonna lie. I have changed my tune. I was wrong. Dead Space has made me a believer. Dead Space and Resident Evil. I'm coming around. I haven't come. I know for you it was Final Fantasy VII, but for me, Dead Space, man, let me tell you, that game is every bit as scary and terrifying and excellent to play as it was when I first played it.
Okay, there we go. What got me through the week? I think the last time we talked, I don't know, since the last time we did a press play, I think at that point I was probably still burning through the series catalog of Parks and Rec again, watching that. I finished that, and now I've started rewatching New Girl again, enjoying that cast. And then video game wise, been playing Civilization 6, loving that.
Mhm.
And what was the other game I was playing? Might just be Civ 6. Yeah. That's about it for me. Like really loving the simulation games. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm happy for you. We appreciate you watching. We're taping this the day after Star Wars Day, May the 4th. So I have my Star Wars shirt on. Also,
I mean, we taped it the day of Star Wars Day.
no, it was the day after. Because we didn't boot up until May 5th.
But I mean, you were wearing it the day of.
I was wearing it the day of, but we taped it May 5th. So I had to pick it up. I don't understand why I waited so long. But I picked up Mace Windu. He was on sale. It wasn't $30, so I was like, you know what? And I've been letting him play with the packaging. I'm actually going to open this. So it's not going to sit on the shelf. But yeah. Hey. We interviewed Emily Swallow. So go check that out on the YouTubes. It's a short interview. And we also interviewed the 501st. So go check those out.
Cool. All right, folks. That's it for us. You can catch us later. We out. Peace.
Bye-bye.